I'm Tenitra Batiste, and all we asked of the Atlanta Falcons today to do in Foxborough was fight. They did at least 52 out of the 53-man roster.
I'm Aaron Freeman, and it's time for the Lenny Krieg era to begin.
I'm Jarvis Davis, and that was funny as all get out. And yeah, I'm with Free. John Parker Romo has to go.
ATL! ATL!
Rise up, A-Town. It's the Falcons Squad. Everything Atlanta Falcons every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the ATL. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Straight from the ATL, the Falcons Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into the Falcons Squad Show, your home of the best Atlanta Falcons football talk. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me are Locked On Falcons host Aaron Freeman and Locked On analyst Jarvis Davis. The Squad Show is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, the offense woke up just like we wanted them to. We'll talk about that. The defense showed up as well, got some key players back that we thought would be X factors and were. However, we also asked for all three phases of the game to show up and show out, and we didn't get that ask. We didn't get that ask, and that is why we're having a conversation today about, maybe, and I know there have been some tough losses this season, guys, but maybe the toughest one of all, because this is one of those last minute type of heartbreakers where the Falcons go up to Foxborough, do what they need to do, and still walk away with a 24-23 loss to the New England Patriots. And let me just say this. When I look down that box score, I'm not going to fault everybody in the third phase, because Bradley Pinion had himself another heck of a game. Bradley Pinion literally helped the Falcons to constantly try to flip the field against the Patriots. And when I look at Jamal Agnew, it might be just a solid type of day of returns, but hey, as long as he didn't give the ball to the opponent, mission accomplished as far as what he did. My biggest challenge is when everybody, including the team itself, is charging each other to step up. Each individual player just do your job and add a little bit on it. And then pretty much everybody does, minus, a few missteps here and there. And of course, we'll talk about injuries a little later. But ultimately speaking, Jarvis, if everybody did what they were supposed to do, which is their job, we would be having potentially a totally different conversation, because at least you put yourself in position to maybe play into overtime and maybe play yourself into a win. Instead, that's not what we got today. Instead, what we got was a really nice scoring drive to put this team in a position to win a game. 12 plays, 84 yards, capped off by an 8-yard pass from Michael Penix Jr. to Drake London. And you're in business until John Parker Romo says you're not.
Yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous. It just sucks to high heaven to have to be sitting here talking about the kicker missing an extra point. Extra point. We're talking about an extra point here, because you saw how, we're going to talk about defense later on, but these guys fought. They did exactly what you would want them to do. This offense was coming in fire hot. These guys had won 5 games in a row. Drake made people talking about him being in MVP conversations.
Yep.
He had passed for over 200 yards in all his games this year, just everything. And guess what the Falcons did? They came up here and made him look normal. They made him look like a young quarterback, right? So I think that for it to all come down to a kicker missing an extra point, and then it's just super frustrating. And I know that the Falcons played well today, but for me, it just goes back to getting a little bit too comfortable with guys that hadn't necessarily earned that benefit of the doubt. And I feel like Rod got a little bit too comfortable talking about he's giving him peace of mind. I was like, what?
Yeah.
John Parker Romo give you peace of mind? Did you see the field goal that I just watched? It pushed it right too. It barely got in there, bad boy. A lot of people, some of the Patriot fans thought he had missed it. And that when the field goal. And I was just like, no, I don't have any peace of mind when it comes to John Parker Romo when he lines up. And he pushed that bad boy just within the upright. And guess what he did? He pushed that bad boy right outside that doggone joint for an extra freaking point. And I think that, we talked about this for the show, T, and I wasn't joking. I know you weren't joking. I need Raheem Morris to be going to the podium saying, hey, man, John Parker Romo is no longer part of the Atlanta Falcons, and he has a final ride home. Like, seriously. Like, bro, you need to catch an Uber. Go and pay for an Uber. Like, call that man the Uber and say, hey, man, you got to pay for your Uber to get home. Because this is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous.
And Jarvis, that would not be a cruel thing, because having to talk about this is cruel. Absolutely cruel. I mean, Aaron, I was wondering to myself, is this dude like seeing ghosts? Because of course he was with the New England Patriots and they released him. And you're thinking to yourself, you look back at the Minnesota Vikings game where he seemed uber comfortable in that particular stadium where he was a part of that team previously, right? So you're thinking maybe there might be at least a comfort zone for you to be able to do something that should be routine, except it wasn't for John Parker Romo. And so instead of us talking about a Falcons team that really put together a solid showing for 4 quarters and walking away with a win and kind of putting themselves at least back into like a playoff conversation, like wild card conversation. Instead, we're scratching our heads thinking, okay, the trade deadline is in a couple days. Does this team, as you mentioned in your cold open, does this team go out to Lenny Krieg and give him a look, or do they need to go, I don't know, on the waiver wire somewhere looking for a kicker?
Well, yeah, I looked it up before. I don't think any other teams are carrying more than one kicker on the roster, right. So a trade is unlikely. But I think you're right. The Falcons have to, we talked all season about like, you want to maybe wait on the rookies. You got Ben Sauls, you got Lenny Krieg. Do you really trust the rookie? Probably not. That's why John Parker Romo. It's not because you trust him. It's because you don't necessarily have the trust in those rookies. And now you're sitting there where it's like, well, it can't get worse. There's no way but up from here. And so it's probably time to make the move. And you sort of mentioned that trust. Like I remember when the Falcons scored on Drake London's second touchdown right before halftime. And I was like, trying to give the update to the insiders, and I had to wait because I wasn't convinced that he would make the extra point to say, oh, the Falcons just scored and cut the lead 21-14. I had to sit there and wait the extra 20 seconds to make sure that ball went through the uprights before hitting that. So, the fact that like that gut feeling that I had at halftime about you cannot trust this kicker comes back to bite the Falcons is not a complete shock at this point in time. And it's unfortunate because we've been talking about this all season since week 1, right? With Young Wei Koo. And then with, you mentioned it, T, with the good and the bad of John Parker Romo. And we just basically been like, hey, maybe he'll earn our trust as he goes out there. He makes that 38-yard field goal. And it's like, okay, all right, John Parker, I still don't trust you, but like you're working towards more trust than not. And then, of course, what we saw at the end of the game completely ruined every single aspect of that.
And then to add to what you were saying, Free, I think that this isn't something that we're just feeling. The coach felt it too. We point out a couple of situations where he decided to go for it when he could have just kicked the field goal and got the points because he was making decisions based off of not his trust on the field. He'll say it. He said it. Obviously, he said that he has that trust or it gives him peace of mind or whatever the broadcaster was saying that Raheem Morris was saying about John Parker Romo. But on the field, I don't see it. I don't see that. So my whole thing is just like I think that not going with your gut, going with your gut in the situation, how you feel, and us having that feeling about him making the extra point, because I had a feeling too right before when it was 23-24. Like, I ain't even have time to really even celebrate Drake London's touchdown, because I was like, man, I don't even know what this dude gonna make the extra point.
Yeah.
So yeah, we talking about a professional kicker having reservations about making the extra point. The coach making decisions based off of his reservation that he has about making pretty much standard field goals in today's world.
Yes.
Just inside 50 yards or 50-yard field goals. That's pretty standard in today's game. So yeah, this is something, this is an issue. And Free joked about this being a issue throughout the entire season, and we thought it was done, but nah, it's not done. It's just been covered. It got lipstick put on a pig. That's all that is. And we just sitting here looking at this doggone pig with lipstick on his doggone lips.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you make a great. I think you make a great point, Jarvis, because I know I had stepped out of the room, so I was actually listening to play-by-play on that particular drive, right? And so I hear, the Drake London catch, and I'm like, all right, bet. And then to hear the broadcaster say what I was thinking as I was thinking it and feeling it, again, I'm not a fan, and I was hurting for the team because I could hear the broadcaster saying, and now the all-important point after. And I said, oh, Jesus. And all I can remember is hearing that reaction, almost like a guttural reaction from the broadcaster. And you could just hear kind of like the Patriots fans go wild. And it's like, this can't be happening. And, I understand, like, one of our audience members was saying, well, hey, there were fourth downs and you got to convert on the fourth downs and you had to get to fourth down. And we'll talk about the Falcons being 1 for 10 and kind of sometimes forcing themselves into a fourth down situation. But the bottom line is this: you went for it 3 times, not just because you're aggressive. So it wasn't just because you wanted to, it's because you had to. But now that we're here, guys, I mean, I hear what you guys are saying. Let me give you guys a quote and kind of get your thoughts on it before we wrap up. Of course, our girl, Tori McElhaney, there in Foxborough, senior Falcons reporter for AtlantaFalcons.com, also, of course, part of the squad show on Mondays. She tweeted, quote, from Raheem Morris, "We have to find a way to win that one." Raheem Morris said he wouldn't make an emotional statement or decision on the kicking game following the missed extra point by Parker Romo. And while I hear what he's saying, guys, I don't think it's an emotional decision. I think the decision is clearly, the evidence shows that it's just time to move on.
Yeah, I think that's fair, T. I'm not gonna hold Raheem's feet to the fire in terms of him having to announce within 5 minutes after the game that John Parker Romo is gone. Again,
look at you being nice, Free. Being nice.
Look, I'm not gonna, because I expect, again, maybe I'm eating crow when we get to the squad show tomorrow or later this week, but I think the Falcons will make the call at some point in the next 24 hours to move on from John Parker Romo and roll with one of the other 2 kickers on the roster, or potentially bring in another guy. So because of that trust, which I know everybody who's listening and watching us right now is laughing when I use the word trust and Falcons in the same sentence, but I don't think Raheem has to make that announcement right now. He can sleep on it. Shoot. He can sleep on it, and then when he wakes up pissed off tomorrow morning, he can then announce that John Parker Romo.
Free, he shouldn't be able to sleep until he gets that dude off the roster. You shouldn't be able to sleep tight until Romo is no longer on this roster, dog. Like at 11 o'clock tonight, bro, that man, I need to get an email from the Falcons brass saying Falcons make roster moves. You know what I'm saying? Like that, I need to get that email. The email got to come on through. It got to come on through like crack. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it has to happen. Like I'm confused. I'm confused right now. Like he needs to announce it right now. Like I don't care about that.
I got
you. Being all reserved, not being emotional. No, it ain't emotional. Like, you know what I'm saying? We just laid it out. We just laid it out perfectly for the last 14 minutes. Like he's been making decisions based off not trusting his kicker by keeping the offense on the field at times throughout this year. Younghoe Koo, he had to go, and he has much more equity in this team, and he deserved the benefit of the doubt, and they gave him that. Not JP, not Mr. Romo. He playing like Tony Romo right now. You know what I'm saying? Like he needs to think about going and broadcasting. Call doggone Tony Romo. Call your cousin and say, man, I need to go. I know your last name not, you know what I'm saying? Like call Tony right now and say, hey man, I might need a job, because this man needs to be off this doggone roster by 11:59. Like, it doesn't need to go into the next day. I'm sorry. There's no reason for it to.
Fair enough. Well, I tell you, again, there were challenges that were made, and I feel like we saw many of those challenges answered in what the offense was able to do. Still saw some chinks in the armor. We'll talk about that next up.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs. With features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance, you can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go, while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So, let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Well, some Falcons actually understood the assignment of what it would take to bounce back, and none may be greater than Drake London. I mean, he absolutely balled out, and as painful as this loss is, you got to look at the fact that Drake London coming back today, 9 receptions on 14 targets for 118 yards, and not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdowns. I mean, Aaron, again, as tough as it is to talk about a loss, and we will talk about some things that we didn't see that we saw that we didn't like on the offensive side of the ball. Definitely we saw good things from Drake London, some solid things, certainly for Michael Penix Jr. as well. But because we called out play calling, I want to start with Zach Robinson first. And obviously this is more knee-jerk reaction. I know we got to look at the film and everything, but as of what you saw today, as of now, what did you think about the game that Zach Robinson called overall?
Yeah, I'll be very interested to go back and watch the film, because the one thing that really kind of stood out in this game was the Falcons adding a couple of new wrinkles in their offense. They kind of soft bench Charlie Warner today. I think he only played like 5 snaps today, and they decided to move away from the 12 personnel, the 2 tight end looks that they have basically been a staple of their offense all season long, in favor of much more 21 personnel with both Bijan and Tyler Algier on the field. I know that's a change that a lot of people have been wanting to see, myself included. It didn't quite manifest in terms of a healthier run game, but a lot of that may have to do with, 2 injuries on the interior of the offensive line, where they just kind of were like, I don't think we're going to be able to run the ball with Kyle Hinton and Javon Gwynn in the game, so let's just focus on more of the short passing game. And it was up and down, as the Falcons offense has consistently been, particularly when they've gotten on the road. But probably their best performance as a passing team on the road. So you can, even though it wasn't good enough today, you can certainly look at this as a clear sign of progress. And a big part of that was sort of Drake London sort of taking over the game, and until the intentional grounding with Penix, him playing really well late in the game, and really, kind of doing the things that you expect your young franchise quarterback to do to put this team in the position to win this game. And so I think, talking about Zach Robinson, it'll be interesting to go back to the film, because I do feel like he was trying different things. And at this stage, with the struggles of the offense, like, I'm not going to fault him for trying to shift some things in order to try to jumpstart the offense. And I think there were some signs that you were able to get something more from this offense based off of some of those changes.
Yeah, like how he used Bijan Robinson, for example, or like you said, the lack of use of Charlie Werner, just trying to switch some things up because, of course, this wasn't that day, Jarvis, where you got a lot of, no pun intended, a lot of run out of the run game, but you kind of knew that was going to happen because teams had kind of started figuring it out. So, yeah, you saw some wrinkles, some different looks from Zach Robinson today that were effective. But for you, overall, what would you say about the play call for Z-Rob today?
I thought it was solid, because, just from the naked eye view, like you said, like Free said, go back and watch the film and kind of see, like, really dig into it. But like the thing that really stood out to me was having Bijan and Tyler Algier in the game at the same time and lining Bijan off the slot out the slot position and kind of having like that wide kind of alignment, which is something that I appreciate because as a defensive coordinator, I'm trying to pay attention to see what you're trying to do, right? Mm-hmm. And then if I am passing the football, I can figure out ways to kind of motion Drake off of that, to get him the matchup that I necessarily want because, I know that Christian Gonzalez was out there battling. Like he and Drake were going at it and Christian was pretty much getting the best of them. But if you notice, all the touchdowns, he was lined up on who? Marcus Jones, So, hey, man, that's matchups. Like,
give Zach Robinson a lot of credit for figuring that part out.
Exactly. We gave all the credit in the world. I know I was one of them. Mike McDaniels finding J.D. Bertrand. Like, man, it seems like he's all going right down the middle of the field, right where 40 is. All the completions are going up in there. Like, it's a reason why. Because it was intentional. So, got to give Zach the credit when he does that, right? It's not by chance that happens. This is very intentional. This is an intentional league, man. When you find a matchup that you can take advantage of, they were able to do that on a consistent basis, especially in the red zone. So, yeah, man, you got to give a shout out to Zach for what he did from a play calling standpoint. It didn't look pretty, but at the end of the day, sometimes it's not going to look pretty all the time. You're not going to put up 35 points and 300 yards and 2 touchdown passing and run the ball for 125 yards. It's not going to work like that all the time. And this is the NFL. That was a really good football team. And they should have been at least playing for overtime or, sitting at this bad boy saying, hey, man, it was a hard-fought game, but shoot, our defense couldn't stop them or something like that. You know what I mean? So the narrative shouldn't be what we're talking about right now based off of how this offense fought back in the second half of this game.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of that, as good of a game or solid of a game as Zach Robinson called and as solid of a game for the most part that Michael Penix Jr. played, ultimately – Drake London was still on some level out there bailing everybody out with the way he balled out today because there were some balls that he caught that were just unbelievable free. I mean, it just goes to show when you look at this offense and what it looked like this week versus last week, just how critical having wide receiver 1 in the lineup is to this team in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before with trying to get the ball into the hands of your playmakers. And, in an ideal world, it's a kind of your pick your poison because Pitts and Bijan and Algier and Mooney and Drake are all eating at the same time. And it becomes impossible to be able to cover all of them. That wasn't today. It was Drake. It was Bijan. It wasn't Bijan on the ground. It was Bijan in the area, like 10 targets. Drake had, I think, 14 targets. So they accounted for 24 out of Michael Penix's 37 targets or passes in this game. And so it was just kind of okay, what's working for us? Getting the ball to Drake London, particularly when he's not matched up against Christian Gonzalez. Then we saw at the end of the game where he had that big catch for that 40-yard play where he was able to get the better of Christian Gonzalez that caused him to exit. And the Falcons are oh, okay, no more Christian Gonzalez. Let's see what Carlton Davis is. What's up with you, Carlton? Right. Are you dancing or what's going on with that? But it's one of those things where I do feel when we talk about Drake London being that number 1 wide receiver, and again, you can look at him, some of those contested situations with him and Christian Gonzalez. And it was like, as Jarvis said, it was like early in the game, I was like, yeah, maybe Christian Gonzalez is that true CB1. And then Drake comes through, and it's just like, that's what you want your number one wide receiver. It's like, when the game is on the line, 3rd down, 4th down, this is the guy we go to. And this is the guy that's consistently making those plays when we need it. And that's what Drake London was able to do today.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, Jarvis, just to kind of look at, again, what Drake was able to do, not just numbers wise to Free's point as well, but it was in those critical moments that you're looking for Drake. And like you said, looking to see, hey, Michael Penix Jr., give him some credit for being able to put that ball where only Drake London could catch it in the end zone. So give him credit for that. But ultimately speaking, just Drake being able to do what he did. And then, like you guys said, Carlton Davis, like, hey, he's seen him before. Kind of down there in Central Florida. He's real good on that one. But yeah, I just think that it's an incredible job because, like Aaron said as well, when you look down kind of the box score as far as receiving yards, I mean, Bijan had a nice game out of the backfield, 8 receptions for 50 yards. And Kyle Pitts had a couple, here and there. But ultimately, it was Drake London doing damage and really helping this team, to you guys' point, to stay competitive and really kind of crawl back into this thing and make it a game in the second half.
Yeah, and that's what you want. These are the type of moments that you look back to when people start questioning whether or not you're gonna pay this man $30+ million a year. Hey man, turn on that Patriots tape. He did everything he possibly could to win this doggone game. You know how? And it was so funny because I was watching the game, and my wife walked into the room. She had been already kind of just listening, but she didn't start watching it until Drake had made the catch. And she was like, so Drake just gonna take over and put the whole team on his back and win the game? I'm like, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's what we saw.
Yeah. And that's the type of thing that you can lean on. I know people don't want to think about, going forward in the future and stuff like that just because we're in the moment. But those are the type of things that you saw, that you look at that connection and that he has with your quarterback who was getting him the rock and putting that bad boy, like you mentioned, T, where only he could catch it. And those are, or where he possibly could, the other person can catch it. Because that was a 65-35 ball, in my opinion. I know they said 50.
There were a few of those.
Right? Because it was right there for Christian Gonzalez to doggone catch that bad boy. And that was, I might be going too far on this one, but y'all just follow me here. That catch looked very similar to the one that 11 made, not Jalen Walker, Jew Jones made over Luke Kuechly. Yeah, I'm talking about he blessed him and then doggone took it. You know what I'm saying? He blessed it, then he broke it. You know what I mean? Like for all you people who would participate in the Sunday stuff, you know what I'm saying? Y'all know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it was just to watch him making plays like that. And it was a beautiful thing to watch. That's football, man. Like, it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be ugly. Yeah, I know the 1 for 10 on 3rd down. Yep, that sucks. Absolutely. But, oh, my gosh, look what they did to be able to put themselves in position to win the game while doing that.
Yes.
So these are one of those games where you're like, yeah, John Parker Romo, yep, you got to go. Golly, man, it just sucks that you had these guys like, because the Patriots said, nope, Bijan, you're not going to run the rock against them.
Right. Nope.
And they've done that to everybody they played against this year.
Right.
And Zach said, all right, man, we're going to figure it out. I'm just going to get the ball to my playmakers and see, let the chips fall where they may.
Right. And then it doesn't hurt. It doesn't make matters better. It actually does hurt that Chris Lindstrom has that foot injury, or Matthew Bergeron doesn't return to the game with an ankle injury. So those are things that you have to consider just in terms of what the Falcons were still able to do to gut it out and put themselves in position to maybe get to overtime. But Free, ultimately speaking, you can't kind of overlook 1 and 10 on 3rd down.
Yeah, that's good. I think Jarvis put it right? Like, this was not anywhere close to a clean game for the Falcons, but they were able to battle back. So, for once on one of these squad shows, I'm going to look at the glass as half full as opposed to half empty. Because like, this is kind of what we in these, like, I'm not going to sit here and say this is a great moral victory for the Atlanta Falcons, but like too many of these losses have been like this team is not, they're just getting punched and they're just taking it and they're not fighting back. And I like to see the fact that they were fighting back, but it's still, as you mentioned, T, they still got a ways to go when it comes to playing a clean game on the road. Too many instances where, too many 3 and outs, and early in the game, it was like, is Kirk out there? Because like, what's all these 3 and outs? What's going on with that? So like that is something that they're going to have to clean up moving forward. But at least you like that they played with a lot more heart today overall. And unfortunately, just too many self-inflicted wounds, including that intentional grounding, as well as the kicker and some of these other issues that cost them. And those are things that you can clean up. And if in a normal season, when we're not freaking out after every game, you would just you would be able to take this in stride and be like, okay, well, we'll get them back and we'll go back on the road against Indianapolis and we'll bounce back from this. But given the type of season the Falcons have had, you can't always trust their ability to bounce back. But a decent showing from the Falcons to show some heart today.
Yeah, and 1 for 10 is 1 for 10, and I think you think that's just when you're one-dimensional, it's easy to go 1 for 10 on third down, right? Because you're pretty much throwing everything in the passing game at that particular defense just to move the football. So it was just the chips were definitely stacked against them. Like you said, you lose a guy like Matt Bergeron, you lose a guy like Chris Lindstrom, and it's so interesting that Free and I were talking about Javon Gwynn on Locked on Falcons. We were just talking about this man, and here he is. He pops his happy behind up in that lineup and got to block Milton Williams and all these guys, the Christian Barmores of the world, all that, right? And you just say, okay, yeah, man, I don't know how they're gonna move this football, but like you said, you put some things together and you try to figure it out. And like I said, it's not pretty, but this is one of those games where it's just kind of hard to accept for me because of the extra point. Like you did so much to get to that spot, and you had some really good performances, specifically by number 5. Drake London hats off to you, sir. That was an excellent performance, but it doesn't count as a dub. Like it's an L. It's still an L. So that's the hard part.
Yeah, because no matter what, the final score is still 24-23. Falcons are still 3-5, falling to 3-5 on the season. And there's still opportunity there, but it just tightens up every week when we have to talk about this type of missed opportunity. But again, the offense, for the most part, did their job, and so did the defense. We'll talk about them coming up next. This episode of our Falcons Postcast is brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. And the Part Finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. So join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. Again, visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNLF5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. So, Jarvis, I think that for the most part, you would be proud of this defense and what they were able to do. But if I may, I would like to just say this. And I'm not saying he was the star of the game per se, but I do believe that 3 said, What I need you to do is keep my name out of your mouth, Jarvis Davis, and I'm going to show you.
Whoa. We're going there already? Can we at least wait till the 40-minute mark? You know what I'm saying? Let me bask in the glow of 11. You know what I'm saying? Getting back on the field and doing what he did today. Like, I'm about like literally taking over the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, but hey, that's fine. That's fine. It's all good. You know what I'm saying? It's Sunday.
Yeah. I just wanted, I'm playing with you. But
I know. Yeah. I actually love it. I love this. You know what I'm saying? This is great. So, Jesse,
I just wanted you to go on and say it. Yeah, let's get that out of the way for JB3.
So JB3, sir, salute to you, man. You finally came to the 2025 season. You know what I'm saying? You introduced yourself. You reintroduced yourself. You know what I'm saying? Your name is Hove. You know what I'm saying? All that good stuff. You know, all that song playing in my head right now. That's what I want. That's what I like to see. I love that because you needed that in that moment.
Yes,
you needed that. I had just tweeted out. I was like, the Falcons better get used to these type of drives. They're going to try to limit possessions going forward. They're going to run the rock. And they, for the most part, the Patriots were running into a brick wall. Shout out to y'all on the run defense today. Solid. I like what I saw. So, you know, and for them to have that style and Vrabel saying, man, I'm trying to get at least amount of possessions for this team as possible. And for you to then come up right after that and get that pick, that's what I want. That's what I want to see. Those are my expectations for Jesse Bates III. Absolutely. I want to call you Jordan. You know what I mean? I want to put the 2-3 on the thumbnail, baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to do that. I don't want Jesse Bates to disappear in games, you know what I'm saying? And not even know that he's out there, because that's not what I'm used to. I'm used to seeing this man doing his doggone thing. So, and for him to get that in that moment, those are the type of plays that I expect from him. And every time he makes those plays, I will be right here. Shout out to you, sir.
So I just had to call him out on that error. But real talk, we talked about Zach Robinson and his offensive strategy. And I think for the most part, we've been pleased with what we've seen as far as the way Jeff Ulbrich called the game, Jarvis, the way he called the game, Aaron. But today it seemed like we saw the execution to follow through with that play call. Well, first things first, let's talk about Brick's call of the game. How'd you like his call?
Yeah, one of the things I was curious to see was, you know, how would they make adjustments to Jarvis's new player that he doesn't like to mention their name at, Mr. Bertrand, number 40 in the middle, who Jarvis has a, you know, tough nickname for Captain America there. But, you know, it was going to be interesting to see, because we saw last week sort of the liability aspect of Mr. Bertrand. And it was like, I don't think you can just run it back and expect better results. So you did see a lot more of Ronnie Harrison this week. You saw a lot more of the Falcons using their sort of big nickel front with Caden Ellis as the only linebacker with their penny fronts and whatnot, as a way to try to limit Mr. Bertrand's exposure. He still got exposed a couple of times. Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, the tight ends. You know, we still working on covering these tight ends. But
I had flashbacks for you when they started, when Hunter Henry started coming out.
You know, and so it wasn't just Mr. Bertrand that was having trouble covering those guys. So still a liability, but not the only one on the defense when it came to that element. So that is something that Jeff Ulbrich's going to have to figure out a way to sort of clean that one up with some of these tight ends and whatnot. But I think for the most part, you saw, like, there was a sequence, I forget when it was, where there was a 3rd and 12, and the Falcons, instead of rushing 5, they called this out in the broadcast, they had a simulated pressure and they only rushed 4. They dropped into coverage, and then Drake May linked up with, I think it was Pop Douglas, for a big explosive play. And then the next time they had a 3rd and 12, they were like, well, not doing that again. let's bring 5. And they were able to get the stop there. So, you know, it was one of those things where, like, the injuries have depleted certain elements of this defense.
Yes.
And I like to see Jeff Ulbrich making adjustments rather than just basically like, well, we're just going to keep doing what we do and we'll figure it out. And so I thought Jeff Ulbrich, even though, it's a little rough early in the game, where it's like, well, we're giving up 21 points in the first half. What's going on with that? But for the most part, I do think the defense came to play, particularly in the second half with some of those in-game adjustments.
Yeah, I think so. And like you said, it was one of those games where you're getting certain players back. So that certainly helps. I think we were all, for the most part, in agreement that Jeff Ulbrich's strategy has been solid. But honestly, and of course, today, still no Billy Bowman, still no Taquan Graham, no Zach Harrison. But ultimately, who he did have back, Jarvis, is the guy that now we can talk about, because boy, did Jalen Walker show up today. 5 tackles, a couple sacks, tackle for loss, pass defense, 2 QB hits, and one of the biggest plays, one of the more critical plays in the game, where you see him go inside, stunt, poke the ball out, James Pierce Jr. right there to pick it up and recover, and just a really, really solid game from Jalen Walker today.
Yes. This is what I was talking about.
Your happy place, see?
Yes, I'm in my happy place. You see how I changed my voice?
Mm-hmm.
This is what I was talking about when they drafted Lem. This is why I said they cannot pass. When the Panthers passed on Jalen Walker, I said the Falcons have to draft number 11 because I know what he's capable of.
Yes.
And I said that this was going to be the guy that had a chance to make the biggest impact on this game because he just brings so much. I know he got beat on that. I know he got beat on that touchdown, but you can't ask for better coverage than that. You can't. Drake May had to make a perfect throw. That's all you can ask for a guy like that. Just the versatility he showed, playing stand-up linebacker in different moments, coming off the edge and closing and doggone sealing off the edge in the run game, just crashing out to knock that ball down so they can force the punt. All those things just really matter. And then the big play, the stunts, they ran stunts today with him and Brandon Dorlus. Y'all remember when we were talking about Brandon Dorlus this week?
Yeah.
How he made a few plays last week. I'm like, man, welcome back, sir. We missed you. But guess what? He was out there today doing his doggone thing. Him and doggone Jalen walking up there, teaming up and running those stunts. That's the stuff that I love to see. I want to see more of it. And I like Free mentioned, Jeff Ulbrich. Yeah, there have been moments where you be like, man, okay, I don't know what's going on, but he's the guy that you can count on to make those necessary adjustments. I will continue to harp on what he said. And I think that for somebody to say that, it just lets you know the type of guy he is, type of character he has. He said, if I don't have an answer with what's going on the field, I deserve to be fired. And he coaches like that. He figures it out. Divine Diablo, the guy who is the face of what I'm trying to do on defense, he gone. Yeah, all right. JD Bertrand was a little sketchy, not a little sketchy. He was a lot sketchy last week. Very much so. I ain't gonna call the man what I called him last week. You know what I'm saying? I moved on. It's Sunday. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to live my life, get my life together. Mm-hmm. But to have to deal with those things and make those necessary jumps, I love what I saw with Ron Harrison. Aggressive, blitzing, coming off the edge. I like those. I like seeing those type of things. So for me, I feel like Jeff Ulbrich had a good game. I love what Jalen Walker. The guy's a difference maker. This is why the Falcons drafted him. This dude, I'm not surprised because I watched pretty much every game he played for the Georgia Bulldogs. So this is exactly what. Yep, just stay healthy, bro. Just go in your bubble, get right. You know what I'm saying? Your hyperbaric chamber, all that. Go and hit that up because Falcons gonna need you for the rest of the season, regardless of whatever the outcome is.
Sure. And as you mentioned, Brandon Dorlus finishes with 4 tackles, couple sacks, tackle for loss, and 2 QB hits of his own. But really, this felt like, Aaron, the Jalen Walker show.
Yeah, definitely. This is kind of the overall performance that we've been waiting to see from Jalen Walker. Mm-hmm. We've gotten glimpses of some positive plays, here as a pass rusher, there as a run defender, there in coverage, being part of the sort of blitzes the Falcons were having to kind of fool Josh Allen a couple of weeks ago in that Bills win. And today you got the sort of complete performance of Jalen Walker. This is why he was often billed as a top 5, top 10 caliber pick in this draft class, because he can add so many different elements to your defense. And so I say, welcome back, Mr. Walker. It's nice to see you. This is what, as Jarvis, who back in like October of last year was like, hey, Aaron, you heard this is Jalen Walker guy? He's exactly the type of guy that this defense needs. And I was like, sure, Jarvis, whatever you say. You're just a Georgia homer or whatever, even though you're a Los Angeles. All that stuff. But that was what was going on in my head. And now it's like, okay, validation for Jarvis Davis. He's absolutely earned it. And and I'm glad you get your chance, Jarvis, to really just wax poetic about Jalen Walker, because this is exactly.
I just got to be called about Jesse. I just got to get called out by Jesse, about the whole Jesse Bates thing before we even get to this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
So, kudos to Jalen Walker.
We show Jesse love on this show.
I do too.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Sure you do, Jarvis. Sure you do. Now, for anybody who knows this show, that Jarvis is the one of all of us, of all the squad shows, who coined him Jordan. So that he has a lot of love for Jesse Bates. And of course, we say that in jest, but it was good to see him being back, looking like he was slowly but surely returning to form. Because as you guys mentioned, whether it's Jalen Walker physically being in the game and making an impact, or whether it's Jesse Bates III looking like 2024 Jesse Bates, both of these are the types of performances that the Falcons are going to need going forward, because unfortunately it doesn't get any easier in London next week against the Colts. But hey, I know we also started the show talking about the fact that one guy had one job to do that he didn't do, but we acknowledge, real talk, there are always a few things here and there, little miscues, minor mistakes that get you to the point of a 24-23 loss as well. So we'll talk about maybe some of those things we saw initially that need to be cleaned up ahead of next week. This episode of our show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game. So again, the NBA season is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel. If you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks, and you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. So FanDuel's giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com to sign up. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, guys, like we talked about a little bit earlier, this was far from a perfect game for the Falcons. On the offensive side of the ball, what are some of the things you see, Jarvis, that this team needs to clean up?
Well, first of all, they just got to figure out a way to get healthy, because going on the road, going out of the country to go play Indianapolis Colts, who I still haven't quite bought in yet, but you'll be a fool to sit up here and say that they're not a contender to, a team that's going to be playing in the postseason, and they probably should be able to make some noise, given how that team is constructed. So I think right now this is a space where they have to get healthy when it comes to, you talking about Chris Lindstrom and Matt Bergeron. Like, Matt Bergeron wasn't able to come back in the game. Hinton had to finish in the game. Having those two guys out, you're talking about figuring out a way to run the football. Like, they got to get healthy. Like, I don't know what they got to do. Like, I'm talking about shooting stuff up, whatever drugs you got to take to try to get back on this field, because their chances go down tremendously when you lose a guy like Chris Lindstrom, one, and then two, Matt Bergeron with his attitude and what he brings to that offensive line, and still trying to progress as a young offensive guard in this league. Like, you can't replace that. I'm sorry. Like they have to figure out a way to get healthy. And I think that this doggone this training system that the Falcons have, they're gonna earn their money this week. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I was just taking a look at my phone, just kind of watching the Twitter to see if there were any updates in terms of those injuries. Because like you said, Jarvis, this was already an O-line with obvious challenges, if you will, knowing that Caleb McGarry obviously done for the season. You're looking at Elijah Wilkinson like he ain't it. You're looking at Storm Norton like, is he going to come back and be, 100% of himself, because he actually can contribute. So, yeah, when you look at Chris Lindstrom having an injury, that is actually a scarier prospect than even when we saw McGarry go down. And then you look at the left side of the offense and it's like, wow, Jake Matthews, the Iron Man, but Matt Bergeron, he's been pretty reliable as well, only to see him go down to injury. So those are things that we'll definitely keep an eye on, because that absolutely impacts even how you call games if that O-line is not solid. And we already know that everyone is looking to attack this team when it comes to the run game. But hey, Aaron, if it helps anybody, just know the Colts lost today. That said, Aaron, what are some of the things that you see that maybe on the offensive side of the ball, the Falcons need to do better?
Yeah, we saw the procedural issues rear their ugly heads again. The fact that the Falcons had to use that timeout to avoid a delayed game coming off a penalty, proved costly in the end, right? Yeah. Maybe, not the number one reason why they lost the game. That number one is 39. But you could probably argue that the number two reason was that procedural issue where they had to burn a timeout, and so therefore that really hurt their ability to kind of manage the clock at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And we were hoping that those issues would go away, but it just feels like every time this team gets on the road, they're going to get one of those a game where, just making very avoidable mistakes of not getting to play in when you have all the time in the world, people twiddling their thumbs or whatever, on the sideline. I don't know what they're doing. And that's really hurting this team, in addition to, question marks about the run game, the third down offense, those types of things, talking about, does the offense have to run through Drake London like it has far too often this year? Like, where's everybody? Like we've given a lot of love for Kyle Pitts on the show this year, and then looked like 2024 Kyle Pitts showed up when he dropped that pass on the third down that hit him right in the chest, and it was like, no, Kyle, not now, no, wait, no. So like, there's certainly some things that this offense definitely needs to sort of clean up. I'm going to give them some credit because they have just been atrocious on the road for the most part outside of that Vikings game. Mm-hmm. So they took strides today, but still it clearly was not enough. And there's still a lot of things that they can clean up.
Yeah. And then on the defensive side of the ball, again, really nice game from the defense, but hey, there's always something you see that you don't want to see. Jarvis, what were maybe some of the little nuances that you saw that you'd like to see this defense clean up ahead of that Colts game across the pond?
It still concerns me that the Falcons can't rush forward and get pressure.
Yes.
Yeah, that concerns me because like we knew of individual guys that they brought in, guys that they drafted, obviously, to come in here and say, all right, here we go. Just fire off the ball and somebody should be able to get there. Just didn't necessarily see that. Now, when they start moving guys around, running stunts, bringing pressure, rushing five, everybody on one-on-one matchup. Let's go. Let's get it. You start to see that, obviously. But it's just that but when it comes down to just four guys, I got seven guys and dropping in the coverage, on play coverage, it just ain't there. And I mean, Leonard Floyd ended up going down and not come back in the game. But
yes,
I'm not gonna put his name out there, but shoot, James Pierce Jr., man, you got to do better. There was one moment where he had crashed down coming from the backside and came free, and Drake May just immediately just whoop, okay, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and break the contain on the opposite side, and he was able to make a play. And I think the play only got for like more than 4 yards, but that's 4 yards that they were closer to getting to a manageable third down, and that's that's one of the reasons why the Patriots had so much success on third down, because it was 3rd and 5, and it was just little things. Allowing a guy like Drake May to get out and contain. It was so funny that Jeff Ulbrich kind of made the comparison to him to Josh Allen, talking about he a miniature Josh Allen, essentially. Like, we talked about Josh Allen breaking contain and taking off, and shoot, y'all playing man, cool. I'm gonna go ahead and get this first down then. As soon as y'all turn y'all back and start taking off. And you know what Drake May did? Oh, you gonna try to rush inside?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. I got you. I'm about to get outside. I'm about to get this 4 or 5 yards, or I'm about to get this first down. And it's just the little things that will break you, especially against these good football teams, because that was a doggone good football team. I know I sound like a broken record, but hey, man, it is what it is. You guys are good. That's a good football team. So little things like that will break you. Bad football teams, yeah, you can get away with it more than likely every now and then. But when you're playing against those good football teams and a guy that's a part of his game, Josh McDaniels has implemented Drake May's legs into that offense. Yeah, you're gonna get got. And it happened. It happened several times a day. So yeah, James Pierce Jr., you gotta be better, man. You gotta get better. You gotta be better, because you just engaging and can't even get off the block.
Yeah.
Come on,
and
man.
Aaron, I just want to say one thing before you wrap us up, just in agreement with Jarvis, that those are the little things that separate the good teams from the average teams or the not so good teams, because you're thinking to yourself, okay, great. Falcons defense able to get Drake May to fumble the ball. Falcons defense recover, able to capitalize. Woo! And then you get that interception, and that gives you an opportunity too. And Drake May showed that, hey, I can have a subpar day and I can still bounce back. I've got players around me. We can all rally together to win a game. And that's something that you want to see as well, because even today with the Colts having 6 turnovers, the Steelers still only beat them by 7. So you just got to make sure that if that team on the other side makes mistakes, you have to make sure you capitalize on it. And granted, the Falcons almost did save that one little situation. But with the defensive side of the ball, when you kind of look at them and see little chinks in the armor, what do you want to see that's a little bit different?
Yeah, you mentioned sort of taking advantage of the opportunities. The Falcons going into this game were 8-0 when they were on the positive side of the turnover margin. So now they're 8-1 under Raheem Morris at this point in time. So let that one sort of slip through the cracks. And piggybacking on Jarvis's point, I think probably people look at the box score like, we had 6 sacks. What are you talking about? We couldn't get pressure. And it was like, a lot of those set when they were able to get pressure, a lot of the times it was, as Jarvis said, Drake May would be able to break contain. Now, when they were able to corral him up the middle, and you had Brandon Dorlus, you had Laquale London sort of cleaning up a bunch of those plays up the middle, like you saw the pressure get there. But too often there were times where Drake May was able to get outside the pocket, which is the last thing you want for him to do, because we watched him do that all season long. Now, the other thing I'll throw in there, Billy Bowman, D. Alford had been solid these last couple of weeks as a nickel corner. Part of that was because defense were like, hey, what's 21 doing out there? Let's go after him. And today it felt like Josh McDaniels was like, you know what? I'm going to do something different. I'm going to go after this number 20 guy, this D. Alford guy, because we got this guy named Pop Douglas. And, D. Alford loves to get his hands on guys. So we're going to put him up against a guy he's not going to be able to get his hands on because he's small and fast. And unfortunately for the Falcons, D. Alford, the old version of D. Alford, not the good version of D. Alford, showed up today, and that led to some of those issues, in addition to the Falcons' inability to really put anybody on those tight ends and really lock those guys down. So, hopefully we'll get Billy Bowman back in Germany, and he'll have the kind of impactful game upon his return like Jalen Walker had today, and hopefully that issue will kind of go away.
Yeah, and I think too, disappointing that Zach Harrison wasn't able to go, because I think we saw some solid performances from him this year as well. And hey, I mean, that's where we are in the season. We're about midway through, Falcons 3-5, and you kind of need some of those guys to get healthy. Hopefully, Jalen Walker is good to go. Because you think about that too, like you don't want to get that report, the first report of the week that starts to list limited participation or did not participate or whatever. So the hope is that we still see him good to go, because his impact was definitely felt today, but also that maybe you'll get a good report from the O lineman, and maybe it's not nearly as bad or as long term as it seems. Because remember, guys, we've been talking about that linebacker core and how thin it was. I mean, this O-line core, to say that the O-line room is thin is an understatement. So yeah, certainly hope to get a good report maybe tomorrow from Raheem Morris. And Jarvis, you look like you want to say something before I wrap up, so I'll give you the floor.
Jovan Gwynn and Elijah Wilkinson for 4 quarters against the Indianapolis Colts? No.
We did this, Jarvis. We brought up Jovan Gwynn and we jinxed it, and now we.
I know, man. I feel like it's partly my fault, man. Like, we talked him up. We talked about how bad we talked about him in the preseason, and now he's back. He's back. He said, "Hey, big head, I'm back." So hopefully, Chris, come on, please, yeah. Chris, come on. I don't want to see Elijah and Jovan. Yeah. Or, if Chris can't go, slide dog on Elijah down in that mug and Storm come on back. But 52 can't be an option at that right guard spot. I'm sorry.
That's right. Not if the Falcons look to bounce back in the running game and in the win column. Thanks to our everydayers for making the Falcons Squad show your first listen of the day. Be sure to stop by Locked On Falcons with your host, Aaron Freeman, for more post-game coverage shortly. See you next time.